Sometimes we forget how awesome stuff can be. And truthfully, we have this ability to look around at stuff that's really very cool when we first see it, but now just completely take it for granted. And one of those areas that we do that with is, in fact, the things of God. And that's what I want to talk to you about today on The Bottom Line. This is The Bottom Line for January 14th, 2018, Level Up Series. Here's a great verse I want to start off with that I think will help and kind of set the whole tone for this. It says this out of Psalm 145, verses 4 through 7. One generation commends your works to another. They tell of your mighty acts. They speak of the glorious splendor of your majesty, and I will meditate on your wonderful works. They tell of the power of your awesome works, and I proclaim your great deeds. They celebrate your abundant goodness and joyfully sing of your righteousness. Folks, the fact of the matter is God has done really great work. And not only just with creation, he continues to do amazing work. But let's start right there. Because you see, I meet a lot of people that say, yeah, I don't do church, but man, I experience God when I'm out in nature. Well, you're supposed to. God created it. He is so awesome that you should be able to discover him whether you're out in the mountains or you're in the ocean or you've gone off to go skiing or you're doing a hike through the desert. You should be able to discover God there because he is that awesome. His work is amazing. But as we go further along in the Bible history, we see how he loved his people. No one else did he do this for, but when he brought his people out of Egypt, man, there was a series of miracles that had to take place. They were the plagues to the Egyptians, but they were miracles to the people of Israel. And that 10th one was so drastic. The firstborn of every family would die, including the firstborn animal of the herd would die. And yet when that angel passed over, not one family of Israel lost any of their children or livestock because the blood had been put around the doorpost. And then they're led out of Egypt. They're allowed to go, and then Pharaoh changes his mind and he has them blocked up against the Red Sea. And, this is a crazy story, right? And Moses takes a staff and then the Red Sea parts and they get across on dry land. And as they get across, the armies of Egypt are coming through that which God has cleared, and now the waters fall in on them. And it's a crazy story. You've never seen it before, but there it is. And then, of course, later Israel has to cross the Jordan and later go up against a walled city. And so they march around that city for 7 days and the walls come tumbling down. That's Jericho. And it doesn't end there. If we roll into the New Testament, we see how Jesus, he healed the blind, and he took the guy that had been at the pool of Bethesda for 38 years, and he said, hey, man, take up your mat and let's get out of here. And he did. Or the people that had been sick a long time. I think of that one lady who'd spent her whole life savings just hoping to find an answer, and God healed her, and she just touched the hem of his garment. Or his power over demons and evil spirits. Mary Magdalene, one of his inner circle, had demons in her, and yet she was delivered. Or the demoniac who was so crazed that they had him living out in the graveyard, and he was chained, and he would break those things, and he would rip his clothes, and it was craziness. And yet when Jesus came along, he delivered them, and those evil spirits needed a place to go, and they found their way to 2,000 pigs. So did the guy have 2,000 demons? Well, seems like it. Or if it wasn't 2,000, there was a lot, and it was very powerful. And yet Jesus, his mighty acts, he blew that all away. And then, he was known to walk on water or feed, people with a few loaves of fish or a few loaves of bread and some fish, right? And then he told the storms to be calm. And one of my favorite is he told experienced fishermen who had been out all night to take their net and move it from one side of the boat to the other. Now, folks, remember, boats in Bible times, they weren't real wide, probably at its widest, 6.5, 7 feet, and move the net 6 or 7 feet. They were fishing all night. Do you not think they had fished in that area? Of course they had. But that's what's amazing. Jesus called the fish to that area in that moment at that time. And they had so many fish. They were breaking nets and had to get others to bring it all in. He shows up at a wedding and it's embarrassing when you run out of food and drink, and He turns ordinary water into wine. You know, we have taken for granted how powerful God is, and God can and will be powerful in your life. You know, a lot of it is the recognition that he can do it, and then allowing yourself to be open to his moving in your life. See, folks, if we're going to level up, if we're going to move forward and grow in 2018 to be powerhouses for the Lord, then we have to understand that he can do mighty things. And when we diminish him, or when we think of him in a diminished capacity, then we're not giving credit, we're not praising him for how powerful he really is. And so I want to remind you that as you're walking into 2018, recognize that God is capable of anything. And because of who Jesus is in your life, that you are more than a conqueror through him who strengthens you. And so I want you to be able to stand and declare that which the psalmist did in Psalm 145. We declare your mighty works. We remember these things and we praise you. So if you want to level up this year, then begin to recognize his mighty works. And when you do that, praise him for it, and you're on your way to experiencing it for yourself. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. God bless you. We'll see you again real soon.